John, how's it going?
Phil, amazing. How are you, man?
Living the dream, brother. So you're a voiceover actor, and that's one of the main things I wanted to talk to you about. But you also have this thing that you do about getting rid of the competitive mindset and learning how to work together with people. I also want to dive into that too. But just give the people a little bit of what you do and who you are and your background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I'm John Goehring. Yeah, so first day I walked on a college campus that I went to, I walked into the student run radio station and I fell in love immediately with these things and like just the padding on the wall and just the concept of radio excited me. So I wanted to get on the air. So I was a play-by-play football broadcaster. I was on the air for several years. It got me an internship in local radio, which ended up leading to a job and a potential career. And I thought, that was it, right? But the radio industry had some struggles. 2,000 people were laid off by iHeartMedia in 2020 before the pandemic, and
Mm,
then even more after the pandemic. And local radio is just not seeing the same success that it used to. So I decided to do what many radio people did after being laid off or wanting to get out of radio proactively, like I did, and that is why don't I still use my voice in some other way? And that's where this whole industry of voiceover, I learned all about this industry of voiceover, using your voice as a career. And somebody's got to narrate the books that you hear and the commercials that you hear and the films and the animations and even the corporate training courses. Somebody's got to do that. So I figured, why couldn't that be me? I have all the equipment and I like to talk, and some people think my voice sounds good. So that's exactly what I did. And that's kind of the Cliff Notes version. Now I've pivoted to a couple other things. I do podcast production and audiobook production because those are two big pieces of the whole industry too, and it allows me to be more versatile. And God forbid something happens to my voice or AI takes over completely, and
yeah.
and that kind of thing. So I've pivoted a little bit, but that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of me. And we can get into the whole competitive versus collaborative mindset because that's a big piece of my journey too, and whatever else you want to get into.
Absolutely, man. So you and I were just talking off record. I think that voiceover actors are probably some of the most unsung heroes of Hollywood. We were just talking about John DiMaggio, and he's one of my favorites because he did Bender for Futurama, he did Marcus Phoenix for the Gears of War games, that kind of thing. And it's not only that, but you have to be like, I was listening to Seth MacFarlane talk one time, and I don't really care for Family Guy or anything he does anymore, but like when he was talking about Stewie when he was doing that particular character, and it's like you have to do that voice, and it's not just doing the voice, it's doing the emotion and the inflection and everything else as that character. And then talk about that kind of mindset. Like, how do you get into that kind of?
I mean, you got to immerse yourself in that. And that's the challenging thing is it's not like you said, it's not just a voice. You can go into 11 Labs, which is a great AI voice software, and you can put in your voice and change it to a different voice. But that's only the pitch, that's only the tone, the pacing, those kinds of more tangible pieces. Then there's the intangible pieces. And that requires really being in the mindset because the truth is when people are listening, voices bring so much emotion to a scene, to a scenario that we don't even quite consciously understand. It's kind of like in music. A music bed can bring a completely different feeling to a scene in a show or a movie. Just that little underneath sound, just those little beats underneath. That's the same thing with the tone of someone's voice and the emotional state that they're in. It is utterly impossible to as a character without totally immersing yourself in that character. So like you said, why voiceover people are some of the unsung heroes of Hollywood is because, we're not acting on screen. We're not wearing a costume, but some do. Some get themselves into that mindset so much. I have a buddy who has done some voiceover work in Hollywood. And he said that one thing he would do is he would get in his truck and he would drive around and scream AC/DC for a couple hours. And then and only then would he be in the right frame of mind to do his voiceover, which is amazing to me because it's like, why can't you just snap, turn it on and do it? It's a hard thing. It's acting is a really hard mindset to get into, but yet so important because without the right voice, if we just use AI to voice everything now, we're not going to get the same sort of characters that we've all grown to love.
Correct. My very first episode with my friend named Christy. He's a software engineer, and we were talking about how I don't think with real acting. I don't know, but then again, I'm not an AI expert. So I don't know how in tune it's going to be, but I know that it's going to be hard for them to replace actors completely because you're going to have the nuance, the what's the word I'm looking for? The pathos, the passion of it. It's going to be hard to match that. Of course, you can do a fully animated movie and still give some emotion, but it's going to be a lot harder to do like a Mel Gibson. He's one of the best actors to ever live. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got great range, and but when you but I think like we were just talking about it earlier, the immersion aspect of it is probably the hardest part because you're basically getting into somebody else's skin, and it's not an easy thing to do. You listen to an interview with Colin Farrell, and when he did that movie where he played Alexander the Great.
Mhm.
It's a long time ago, but and he was saying how hard it was to get into that character because no one knows what he sounded like, no one knows what he walked like. There was no real indication. But I think on the other side of that coin, though, that does give you a little bit more freedom, because you don't have those confines and you can kind of make it up, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but who can you give me some ideas of what you've done for voiceover?
Yeah, so for me, it's been a lot more of the advertising, the radio work. I still contract for the radio stations that I've been working for, so that I used to work for full time. So it's, the radio imaging, the things that come on the radio, whether they be ads or low promos for the station. I've actually done 36 audiobooks now. So audiobooks are a really big piece of that. And that takes some character work and some
Yeah.
immersion, like you said. So really a combination of those things and then some corporate training courses too, which are starting to be more replaced by AI. But I was that annoying guy who came on was like, don't have sex with your coworkers. It could be a felony in many states. So that was me too. And obviously AI has become a bigger thing now, but we didn't realize like how big the voiceover industry was. There's voices all around you. They had to be
Hmm.
recorded by somebody. So that was me for a while and still is to a certain extent and loved every minute of it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I just had this thought while you were talking. I forget the guy's name. He was a Russian actor, but he was doing like a commercial for Volkswagen. And one of my friends, she was at the time she was in theater, trying to get into theater. She was doing a play of Taming the Shrew, and we were talking about actors, like big name actors doing commercials, and how that takes away opportunity for unestablished people to get a portfolio. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I would tend to agree that this our economy, our whole the way ads now work is all who's the biggest name and the rich get richer, right? In that
Right.
sense. And that's, we see that if you watch sports, we see that with athletes too. Now it's not the spokesperson for Chick-fil-A talking on TV, famous NFL quarterback talking on behalf of this brand and this organization. And, companies have caught on. They realize that that's really what's going to get people to pay attention. Nobody cares anymore about some random CEO or some random actor that you hired to talk on behalf of your brand. So that takes away some opportunities from voice actors, from on screen actors, from people in the industry where you have to make your name somewhere else. It can't just be as the spokesperson, the talking head, because that's going to be replaced by other things. So that's why I've gone around, I've told my story because you want to be known for something, right? You have to be known for something. That's like personal branding 101, right? What is that one thing, that one transformation that you're known for that you're not going to help other people do? And when you can go around and tell that story and make a name for yourself in that way, now you're more likely, even if it's on a micro level to start out, to represent brands, to be in certain situations where, okay, that voice, that face is familiar. It's a what do they call it? It's not a gig economy, even though it
Mm,
is. It's an attention economy. That's what they call it, right?
yeah.
What grabs attention the fastest, and you're either known or you're not.
I think it's unfortunate there's a lot of people out there that have passion for what they do, and when I mean, I've never gone on an audition, right? So I don't know what that's like. I'm sure it's nerve-wracking as hell. So I would never know what that's like. But you're sitting there in your chair, you got your script, and then like said superstar walks in and you just might as well wad it up and walk out. I don't and it's not necessarily fair,
Yeah,
and it
good
was
point.
I get it because they want to make the movie as marketable as possible and want to make their money back. But that's what I think it's kind of why we need more independent film,
Mhm.
and I think there needs to be almost because I don't really like politics in my movies too much, you know. So I think there needs to be like a still. Like, I had high hopes with A24. They were, you know, they looked like they were going to be just solely about the art, and I think they're still staying true to that a little bit. I haven't seen too much stuff of them lately, but I do dig what comes out of that place. But I think mainstream Hollywood, unfortunately, is gonna take a dump pretty soon. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they just can't seem to get it together. It's just it's either nostalgia or, you know, like with remakes, or it's just hardly any original ideas. But I guess there was that big shakeup at Lucasfilms with Kathleen Kennedy leaving.
Well, and you see it starting to with, like, you talk about indie and how important that is, and the amounts of content that we now have to consume is just truly overwhelming. So people in Hollywood who think that their way, the traditional route to go, is the only acceptable way, and that they have just by default, they're just the choice of the public because, well, why wouldn't we? We always have been. That's going to come back to bite them in the ass because let's face it, people the content that we consume now, sometimes the quality isn't even objectively that good.
Right.
People don't care. I mean, look at the rise of TikTok and YouTube Shorts and everything. A lot of people, are just literally driving in their car with with their phone, and they're recording themselves saying some stupid thing about some take that they have, and that's what's going viral. It's not the well produced, high budget, superstar driven type of thing. So with the big brands, certainly they're going to be seeing, what kinds of superstars and well-known names they can attract, but you just never know what content's going to appeal to the public. And a lot of times it's that less produced, less centralized content, not from Hollywood,
Mhm.
that we see. And so that's kind of a revolution that we're seeing, and I think that will spell trouble for Hollywood eventually.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to see the movie because I'm a huge movie nerd. I mean, like I like stuff that that people don't really get into, or like I like the niche stuff. Some like
Mm,
one of my favorite movies is a Matthew McConaughey movie called Frailty. Did you ever see that one?
no.
So he plays. It's just an amazing film. Matthew McConaughey, Powers Booth, and Tombstone, and a bunch of other. He's one of those guys that you like. I know you, but I don't know where I know you from kind of actor. So it's like he's
Yeah.
got that sweet spot, you know. So where'd you grow up and all that stuff?
Upstate New York. So I'm here in the Rochester area.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's where my uncle lived in Rochester for
No
most of his
kidding.
life. Yeah, until he passed away about I think 10 years ago. Yeah,
Huh.
I'm not super close with you know with I have a huge family, so it's like it's
Yeah.
kind
So
of
you're everywhere.
it's really hard to stay close to everybody. But how do you like living in New York?
We were just talking about it. It's cold.
No, yeah,
It's
you said it
cold
was
up here.
16 up there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 16 degrees today, but I can't complain. It's a good like balance of so the city, New York
Mhm.
City is like 6, 7 hours away. It's not even,
Wow, it's not
you
that
know,
close. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. People are like, "Oh, you're close to the city." No, it's we're way over to the western part of New York. But we're right on Lake Ontario, which is nice. We got Niagara Falls, an hour away. We got these beautiful lakes called the Finger Lakes, less than an
Mhm.
hour away. So it's really not a bad place to live. People complain about the cold, and just stay inside, right? I get to work from my little studio booth here, so I stay inside when it's cold for the most part, and I can't complain.
So let's talk about the mindset thing. How so? Where did you come up with this idea of getting rid of competitive and coming into collaborative?
Oh man, it was my failing voiceover career that did
Okay.
it. Honestly, it's so I left radio and you get into voiceover, and like many things, it's so hyper competitive. You mentioned earlier too, like auditions, for
Mhm.
example, you got to be better than everybody else. You gotta
Right.
be that top person. You're trying to grab onto every little bit of work that you can get, especially when you're struggling and you're scared as hell because you're like, I don't have an income coming in right now if I don't get jobs, right? But
Right.
I realized after competing so hard and trying to be better than everybody else that wasn't working for me because I was trying to be everything to everyone, and therefore I was even hurting my reputation. Somebody would
Right.
come and say, we need somebody to sound like an African American 40-year-old male. And I'd say, I can do it. And I'm like, what the fuck, John? You're a 22-year-old white kid. Like,
Right.
what do you
What?
really?
Yeah.
And but it's that scarcity mindset, right? Carol Dweck has this great book about mindset. It's you either have a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset. The
Mhm.
scarcity mindset says, I need to grab onto every opportunity I can get because there's only so many of them. The
Right.
abundance mindset says that, this opportunity, if it's not perfect for me, I can pass it up and I can still sleep good at night, passing that opportunity up, knowing that it's for somebody else. So that's where competition, being a hyper competitive person that I was growing up in athletics and doing all that, it came back to hurt me because I was trying to beat everybody. But what I realized is that it's a lot more effective to join forces with people. And that's why I
Absolutely.
created a partnered talent page on my website. I started referring jobs out to other people saying, hey,
Mhm.
I don't think I'm the right fit for this job. I think this person is. That person who I knew in my network by building my network of voice artists instead of shutting them all out because they're all my competition, right?
Mhm.
Now all of a sudden, all these different people are going, oh, this John guy, he's nice. He referred that to me. Oh, you know what? Let me refer this job back to him. And that's how my business was actually really saved from
Mhm.
sucking to pretty profitable because I
Right.
changed it. It all started in the mind, right? It was all going from that competitive nature to the more collaborative spirit.
Yeah, I think that that's actually a very good way to go about life, and not even necessarily work, just life in general. I look at it like this: there's enough room on top for everybody,
Yes, you're
and
right.
not everybody's going to be, what's the word I'm looking for here? I think if there's an abundance and there's a level of humility there that you have when you can say, hey, you know what, this isn't me. I need maybe Steve over here can knock this out of the park better than I could, And then that's a brilliant, beautiful mindset, and it makes you look like someone who's willing to help other people and not just everything's mine, blah 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 blah. That's fantastic. So what what was there a catalyst for that when it happened, or when did that click? Sorry,
There
that
was a
was a
men Yeah,
yeah.
there was. There's a mentor of mine who explained it to me in a way that I'll never forget. I was complaining to him about not getting enough work, and I've been auditioning for everything. He said, "John, are you auditioning for the right things?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean? Every audition is an opportunity to get a job." And he said, "No, John,
Mm-mm,
look." And he explained it to me in a way that I'll never forget. And I try to go about life with this philosophy. He said, "John, everybody's an ice cream flavor. You might be vanilla, you might be strawberry, peach, lime. It doesn't matter. You're an ice cream flavor, and no ice cream flavor is necessarily universally better than another, right? Like we can't just say strawberry is just the superior ice cream flavor. Even if that's my opinion, I can't
mhm,
just say that as a blanket statement. And
right.
then also different ice cream flavors fit different moods and scenarios, right? And therefore, if you're an ice cream flavor, you don't see yourself as beating another flavor. You don't see yourself as better or worse, or it's not hierarchical like that. It's more like, are you the right fit? And so finding that, and then he told me, why don't you get together a group of ice cream flavors, and instead of just being a ice cream shop where you can only get strawberry, be the ice cream shop where you can get any flavor you want. And then when a client comes to you and is looking for a particular voice, you know who to refer to. And now you've built a network around you. And in return, the law of reciprocity, people give back. They just do. That's not maybe why you do it because you're a good person, right? That's not why you do it is to get back, but you do get back and that helps grow your business. So that was really the catalyst for it all was that mindset shift of don't try to be everything to everyone. Be your flavor. And then what that gives you freedom to do too is excel in your flavor, like work on your craft within your flavor. It's so exhausting to try to be all the different flavors and try to do them well. It's impossible and exhausting. And the flavor that you're actually good at suffers because you're not taking the time to perfect your craft. So that was the huge mindset shift.
It goes to show you that kindness and the ability to work with someone can go a long way.
Yeah. Yeah.
My point is that I think that when we have a basis of community and that we can say, hey, you know what, this isn't for me. Maybe it's for you. And it goes, cool, dude, thanks. And then, like you said, down the road, it can have dividends. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, we kind of
Yeah.
burned through it pretty quick.
Well, it's a good point. If I could just, say one quick thing about entrepreneurship,
Yeah, sure.
like we have to create that community by ourselves. Like you
Hmm.
think about the solopreneurs out there, if you run a business, like
Hmm.
You have to create that community. When you're working in a full-time role, you're kind of just placed in this place in the world, and you have people around you that's built in surrounding you. But we have to create that if we work for ourselves. And that's one thing that I was missing. I didn't have any community. I'm sitting here alone, an extroverted person sitting in this booth talking at a wall all day and
Mm.
banging my head against that same wall because I'm not getting enough work, right?
Hmm.
That's like that was the part of the problem, is that lack of community. So if you're a solopreneur, surround yourself with like-minded people, even if they're, yeah, technically your competition. That's okay. Like you said, Phil, there's enough for everybody. Rising
Hmm.
tides lift all ships, I believe, is the
Yeah,
phrase, which is true,
it's
right? And you
very
got to
true.
create that community.
I think what you're doing with that, like, cooperative, collaborative entity is fantastic. So, well, I ask this of everybody: what are two pillars that you live by to get you through your life?
Yeah, honestly, faith and trust to me.
Yeah,
I have faith in God. That's really important to me.
nice.
And I believe that trust is what is power in life. I mean,
Hmm.
when people trust you in your relationships, I mean, I'm married, and my wife, if we didn't trust each other, it would be hell. It would
Yeah,
be our relationship would be hell. So building that trust, you can either, make deposits of trust, or you can make withdrawals. And the way you deposit trust is continue to show up and do what you say you're going to do.
yeah,
Don't talk a big talk and then not follow through. So that to me is trust. And like I said, faith in God is just very important to me. Keeps me sane in life, and I believe that we came from somewhere. So
mm,
those are two pillars that I would stand firm in.
awesome. With me, I generally try to trust people until they give me a reason not to. I think trust is a huge thing, and I'm learning how to do that now. But for me, I have to learn how to trust people in this environment, and it takes a lot, especially someone who's been. I hate to say that I've been hurt because that sounds cliche, but I've had people take my trust and stomp on it.
Yeah.
So like when somebody wants something out of the ordinary for me, I get a little bit what
Mm,
so but I'm learning to get better, and I'm learning how to say, hey, you know what, this if this person does something nefarious with what I'm doing, I'll just not ever work with them again or whatever. And that's how I've come to terms with it, because I think in this type of environment, podcasting and what you do as well, I really think that you have to have that core group of people that you can say, hey, I can trust this person to not do something to hose me over, you know?
yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And that's why
So,
stories are so powerful in
mm,
building trust too, like telling your
mhm,
story and helping people understand where you come from. And then the power of voice in building trust, to kind of bring it all full circle. That's one
yeah,
of the reasons I'm so passionate about voiceover and podcasting, is because voices build trust. There's a lot of research that shows that someone hearing your voice and seeing your face build multiple times more trust than them, reading a text message from you, or just hearing about you, hearing from you with your own voice. There's something powerful about the human voice in building trust.
absolutely. So you said you do audiobooks.
Yes.
What is your favorite type of audiobook to narrate?
It's a great question. I would say, so I did one recently about OCD, an OCD workbook. And I have suffered from OCD. I've struggled with it for a while. I go to therapy, which I never thought I would do,
Mhm,
and I take medication for it as well. And so that kind of thing, like books that I can see myself in. I've
mhm,
done several like faith-based books, and like a person who believes in God, like that's also something that I normally do nonfiction, right? So I've done several fiction books. I've done a few of them, which
mhm,
is more work because you're hiring out characters and then you're putting
mhm,
that together. But the majority of the books that I've done are nonfiction. There's benefits to each, but I'd say some of the least favorite books, without, hopefully my clients don't check this out and say, you didn't like doing my book. I enjoy all the opportunities I get to do
of
books.
course, yeah.
But with that said, the study guide to pass the food safety examination wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, no, I can't, yeah, no, I can't imagine someone being upset that you would say it wasn't fun to do.
It wasn't, but you learn a lot, and that's the cool thing. Like the most random ass topics in the world that people are
Mhm,
just like, your voice is the right fit for that. I'm like, well, thank you, I guess.
yeah,
So, but I have to say that book that I just narrated about OCD helped me, gave me some real tangible advice and that. So that was exciting to me. And then, the faith-based books that I've done, a couple biographies, I'm like, geez, that person was really interesting. I'm reading right along with you, even though I'm reading and editing and doing more work. I'm still reading right along with somebody who's listening. So it's kind of a cool job because I've always wanted to read more books because I don't read enough. And this is a way to do it and get paid for it.
Yeah, I used to be such an avid reader when I was younger, and then I hit 40, and then it became a cure
Mhm.
for insomnia for me. I don't know what it is. I was a big fan of the Harry Potter movies and all that shit, so I want I'm gonna read the books. So I bought the first ones, Sorcerer's Stone, whatever it's called, and I have had it for 6 months, and I'm still halfway through it.
Because you can read like a page a day and then you fall asleep, right?
Exactly, and
I'm
then
with you.
but then I went off the deep end with, like, conspiracy books. You ever there's one called, Behold a Pale Horse. And, it's intriguing, and you're like, "Oh, okay," because it goes through everything from aliens to how you're like, "This is kooky shit." You know?
Yeah, I'm really interested in that.
Yeah,
That's fascinating stuff.
yeah, I'll definitely send you a link to the book on Amazon, and there might be an audio version, I don't know, but,
Yeah.
and then, of course, your classics, your Fahrenheit, whatever, and all those, and all the Orwellian stuff I've kinda gotten into because I just wanna know, like, I even picked up, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, and that one I'm waiting to start. It actually talks about basically computers taking over, which is
Yeah.
not too dissimilar from what we're going through right now.
Yeah, I
So,
read that. That was kind of scary shit. And that was like, I've read it probably 10 years ago. And now you're
mhm.
starting to see that actually coming true. And you're like, wow,
Well,
unbelievable.
I just saw an interview with Elon Musk, and he was talking about how, don't go to medical school because
Mm,
AI is gonna be taking that. And now, listen, as much as I wanna agree, like, I'm a medical person, and as much as I tend to agree with some of the stuff he says, I don't think that's gonna be a thing for at least another 20, 30 years because when you have a patient come into the trauma bay and they're bleeding from everywhere, I don't know if a robot has enough capacity to be like, it's going to short circuit. I'm sorry. It's like it doesn't have the capacity to think on the fly like a trauma surgeon or any doctor.
sure. But how many of those, how many medical professionals, they aren't in those urgent scenarios. Maybe they're just, right for regular checkups or whatever. I could see
Right.
that
Yeah, like
starting to be
I think
replaced.
GP should be where like general practitioners, like your family docs.
Yeah,
Yeah, start to sweat because that's a different story. But when you get more and more specialized, it's going to be a longer time frame. Like,
for sure.
but anyways,
Well, that's cool, man. I mean, we
mhm.
we hit voiceover, we hit how about podcasting? Tell me a little bit, about your podcasting journey.
Okay, well, this is actually my third show that I've had. The first one was was called Two Marks and a Mic. It was an old school wrestling program, or it was
Cool.
an old school wrestling podcast. It was great for it didn't go very long because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but the person that I was working with on that one, they just didn't feel they weren't committed. If I'm
Yeah,
being honest, and
not a good
then
fit. Yeah,
no, and it was like it was fun for a little bit, and then like I didn't know about stuff like this, like Riverside,
yeah.
so I didn't know that he could be at his house and I could be at mine. So I was having him come over to my place and do this thing. And it was, we were doing like 15, 20-minute episodes. So I would do everything, edit, pick the topic, all of it. And the second one was called The Official Sasquatch and Squirrel Show. And
No
so
kidding.
yeah, and it was, I forget exactly what it was called, but so that was with my ex brother-in-law, a guy named Tim, and it was good. We had some creative differences, and we went our separate ways, and here we are. But this is my jam. I like just talking to individuals about everything, and not just that was more like going down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole type stuff. We talked about the origins of Halloween and
Whoa.
Thanksgiving, yeah, and all that
Yeah.
kind of. But that was it was like little 30-minute episodes, and then we did one where we had a guest, and she's a funeral director, so we were talking about the ins and outs of that business, and then but it was mostly him just doing dick and fart jokes about Sasquatch and shit. So but it was fun. We got like 10, 15, 20 episodes in, and or whatever it was, and it just kind of fizzled. But and then now I'm doing this one, and I really enjoy it, and Riverside has made it incredibly easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, like, the technology that we now get to use where, it can help with editing, it can help with that's why I always encourage people, start a podcast. If you're looking to get your
Mhm.
voice and your name out there more, and, like, my big passion, build trust with your audience, right? Like,
Yeah.
start a podcast that don't start a blog, I mean,
Mm,
you can if you want, if that's
right.
your jam, if that's what makes you feel good, like, I don't have any problem with a blog, it's just, like, if you actually wanna build an audience, a blog's not the way to do it. It's
Mm-mm.
starting a podcast, it's getting your face out there, it's taking clips from the podcast and making them into shorts like you do on YouTube Shorts, and then putting out video and audio and promoting the heck out of it on your social medias and on your website, whatever, that's podcasting, and that's the power of it is you know, you can have authentic conversations, and unlike on TV, you can cuss if you want to, if that's part of your brand. You know, you could do whatever the hell you want. So that's why, yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm happy you found this show to be a good balance of things where you're talking with people, you're just shooting the shit on whatever.
Mhm.
And it really seems to fit for you.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah, because like I tell people usually when I do how you and I did the meeting before the show kind of thing
Yeah.
a few months ago. I tell them is like I've never met a stranger because I enjoy like I remember one time I was in Mexico and I was coming back and I was talking to these people for 10 minutes in line and they didn't speak English. They were
Kidding.
no,
What is that one?
they were Italian. They were just like, "Uh-huh, yeah, uh-huh, yeah." And I was like, man, it was my first wife, and she was like, "They don't speak English, Phil." And I was like,
But
"Buongiorno."
buongiorno. Yeah.
And then
There you go.
later,
DiGiorno? No,
da
DiGiorno's the
da
pizza.
yeah,
That
DiGiorno's the pizza, yeah.
shows you how much Italian I know.
Right.
Ciao, is that a thing or is that
Yes,
French?
I've been studying up on Italian because we're going to Italy this year, me and my girlfriend.
Oh, nice.
And but so here's the thing about language is, and especially she's from Czech Republic, so this is kind of so when you say like dobrý den in Czech, that means good day, right? And that's how you would say hello to someone you don't know. And but the informal is ahoy.
Yeah, right. That's
There's
a
so basically
super
there's the formal and the informal, so you wouldn't like there's just certain things you wouldn't say to people that you don't know. So that's just learning those little differences. But
right.
no, I really enjoy the aspect of podcasting because like you and I wouldn't have met in any other way. You know what I mean? And you
Nah,
seem like a pretty cool
really.
dude.
Yeah,
And it's so we
likewise.
yeah, and when we get thanks and we get these cool conversations, we're just being friggin' dorks, and it's fine. I mean, at least I am. I don't want to call you a dork.
Ah, you can call me a dork. I'm as much of a dork as you are, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, you live in where in Florida do you live again?
I live in Central Florida, just a little bit about 45 minutes north of Orlando.
Like the or okay, so like the Villages or Ocala or that kinda
Yeah, in
area.
that kind of area. Yeah.
Yeah, so you live all the way down there. Yeah, there's no way I'm never gonna yeah, my wife's trying to convince me like, "Oh, once we have kids, we should go to Disney," and I'm like,
No, don't.
"Why?
No,
I
don't.
don't want to."
And plus, it's like, was it Universal or it was one of them here? Somebody just did a post about getting the fast pass. It was $1,200 for 5 people, I think.
Jeez.
It's insane, dude. I
Oh,
avoid that like the plague. I don't. Me and my girlfriend, because it was her birthday, we went to Winter Park, which is a suburb of Orlando, and I was like,
okay.
"Why are we here? There's too many people."
It's just
you
a
know?
lot of people.
And traffic is nuts, and we were getting on I-4, which is a big interstate here in Florida. It's like it's if you want to get anywhere quick, you go on I-4, and it was 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and it was jammed. I'm like, do these people not work?
Yeah,
And
really.
she's like, everybody works from home, or they're an influencer or some shit. Yeah, Florida it's my home. I was born here. I was born in Orlando back in '79. It'll be home for the foreseeable future. We have a plan to move abroad at some point because it's just
Cool.
with the taxes and unless there's a cosmic shift in this country, it's just not profitable to stay here anymore.
Yeah, you're not feeling yeah, yeah, I don't blame you. It is amazing how cheap some other places are. I mean,
Mhm.
I've had my brother just moved across, to Europe, and it's like you can get an Uber for like $2. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, okay, good luck with that here."
Mm,
Groceries are cheap, everything's cheaper. And,
mm,
granted, people say, "Well, they make less money too."
yeah,
Yeah, but
but
like
it
it's
yeah.
still a difference.
The conversion rate for the Czech crown to American dollars is for every 1 American dollar is 20 Czech crowns. So,
Wow. Yeah.
it's a huge thing, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
so, then and the goal is to kinda, if we can find a remote job that pays in dollars, you're gonna have a good life. Here's a question.
Yeah.
If you had anybody that you could like a famous voice actor or actor, who would
Right.
you, like, wanna hang out with?
Oh, it would be Denzel, hands down.
Yeah, I agree, I
Yeah.
agree. He's probably yeah, he's one of my favorite actors for sure.
I mean, the dude's just so authentic. So he's a badass.
Mhm.
He is a person of faith too, which I think is super cool. And but he's achieved so much success with so much humility. And
Mhm.
it's just I've heard from people who know him that he is off camera who he is on camera. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
it's
amazing,
really
yeah.
cool.
One of my favorite movies that he did was called The Bone Collector. Do you ever see that one?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, dude. And in the
I
movie,
heard of
he
that.
yeah,
Now I
it's
know what you're talking about, yeah.
yeah, so and it's got Angelina Jolie and, the guy that played Al Bundy.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but
Yeah,
I've heard of it.
it's a good movie, so if you get a chance, check it out, and then, so that he did Inside Man that I like, and there's The Hurricane, he's got a list as
Yep,
long as my arm.
yep. That's I don't know how he's been able to do as much. It's ridiculous. He's in everything.
Yeah, he is, and it's well, and here's the thing is he's done it for so long, he's had, what, like a 40-year career.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
it's
Yeah,
insane, and it's just I think it's yet again, it can go back to building relationships, right?
yep.
Like, him and Spike Lee have made some great movies together.
That's the funny thing. They're very different, yet they've been able to come together and make some incredible movies together. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. It's a good
yeah,
point.
yeah, and that just tells you that when you put ego aside and you're able to come together and get the job done, you can accomplish anything.
Yeah, you don't have to agree with everyone, and just understand that's where trust comes in too, like,
Mhm.
building trust with people, understanding where they came from, like, like, I can ask you, like, "Do you like your governor?"
DeSantis?
Yeah.
Yes and no, and
Yes
here's
and
why.
no.
Yeah, and here's
Interesting.
why. I like the fact that he's trying to get rid of property tax in Florida because I paid $5,000 this year in property tax,
Jeez. Yeah,
and
yeah.
then, but then again, I bought a new home. But anyways,
Okay.
but the other part is he also, and I'm listen, I want to preference this. I'm not some porn freak, but he did, and he limited it in the state. So, but because I'm a huge freedom of speech guy. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. It's
You see what
not
I'm? Yeah,
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 yeah, I
yeah,
do
and
see what you're saying, yeah,
yeah,
because
and
it's not like, "Oh,
yeah,
I want that," but it's like but it sets precedent, and it's a slippery slope.
it is, and it's like, so it's like I'm also pro life, but I feel that abortion should exist because if you don't, some people are going to die.
Yeah,
So
that's the tricky thing, yeah,
and it's
and
and
you're
it's
right.
and so I might lose some viewers on that one,
Yeah.
but so as far as is, but DeSantis is okay. I mean, he just like he it's like a dog. The dog will do something nice and you praise it, and then it does something stupid. And I hate to. I'm not calling the man a dog. I'm just saying it's like I just think that
I get
it's
you, yeah.
so. What about you? How about who is your governor up there?
Oh, don't even get me started.
Sorry.
No, Kathy Hochul
Oh
is
yeah,
mildly better than, Andrew Cuomo was,
that's
but
yeah. I think
I'm I'm not a huge fan,
yeah. Well, because New
yeah.
York's generally liberal.
It is quite liberal. I lean conservative, though
Mhm.
I'm not a huge Trump guy, but I lean conservative. I'm
Good.
not crazy about some of the more recent policies and just the overall tone, and so I
Mhm.
just don't think it helps the conservative cause.
No, I voted for him 3 times. So,
Really? Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? We could talk about that. I think that it's like when you get that taste of that kind of power, he already had a huge ego to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And then you throw that on top of it, that's just fuel to the ego fire. Florida as a whole is great. I think that, DeSantis has done some things like we're in a surplus financially, which is why he's trying to get rid of property tax. It's basically owing the government in perpetuity. Like
Mm.
you never get to own your home because if you don't pay it, they come get it. You
You're
know?
right. Yeah. Do
So
you
it
ever
doesn't
really own it?
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
good
and
question. Yeah.
it's just constant rent, and then, like, for me, I don't have children, so I have no dog in the fight for schools. Well,
But you're still
why
paying.
yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
still paying it, but it's also, like, and so there's somebody I forget they are on YouTube, he's actually actively talking about this, and he goes, "Where a lot of our misspending goes is, school boards. They're
School board.
bloated and over" yeah, that's a whole thing, but,
That's very interesting.
I think the moment that you put government in anything is when it starts to suck.
Yeah.
When you regulate things to the I'm not even sure if it's regulating. I don't even know what you wanna call it. The inefficiency of government anymore is disgusting to me.
Yeah. Well, that's probably why I find myself on the conservative side because of,
Mhm,
less government is better in my opinion. However, I will say that like when it comes to like we talked about trust and how important that is, when you hear stories from people, so like I'm Second Amendment, like, I'm
Oh,
pro
100% here, brother.
guns
Yeah.
and, those kinds of things, which yeah, it sounds like you are too. But when
Hmm.
you hear a story from someone, who was lost to gun violence and, or had a family member who was lost to gun violence, it's just that does build trust like that. Now I trust that person. I understand where they're coming from. And I'm like, look, I see why emotionally that's difficult for you. And now I don't believe that restricting or taking away guns is actually going to help gun violence. I think it
No, it won't.
might do the opposite. However, if I can understand where someone comes from, now I can, because that's the biggest difference between teenage and young adult me and me now. Because when I
Uh-huh.
was younger, it would just be like, well, screw anybody who thinks different than me.
100%. Yeah.
If you have an abortion, I think you're evil. If you this and that, I think you're wrong and evil. And I had to really come to that point where it's like, John, everybody has a different upbringing, different events that have influenced them and influenced how they see the world. And, learning to respect that and respect all people has really been a big step for me.
Yeah. It's hard because when you're younger and you have this mentality of I'm right, I know everything.
Yep.
And then that's what college used to be. It used to be a place where you could go to get your
Mm.
ideas challenged. And
Yeah.
it's not that anymore. It's just I think I told one of my friends on the show here that it's just an indoctrination machine now.
Yeah.
Marxist, generally speaking, and it's like
Yeah.
I never went to college. I went to a vocational school for what I do because it's not like I don't the 4-year college plan to me is to keep people in debt. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it does a good job at that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, when you're 20 something years old and you have at least let's say 100K in debt, you know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't
That's not a
you're
good start. You
no,
better
it's
be like a doctor or something if you're gonna
well,
get
and
out.
here's the thing is like I used to work at a teaching facility in Orlando, right? And it was level 1 trauma center, Orlando Regional Medical Center. I worked there for 8 years. And I would talk to these people that are going through residency and fellowship and all that. And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Dude, I'm 500K in debt
Jeez.
or whatever." I think we'll just say, the 250. But I mean, granted, basically what they have to do for the first 5 years of their practice is live like they lived in residency, to start making money. And it's like, but once they get their loans paid off, especially if you're in a specialty like orthopedics, we'll say, if you do orthopedics, you're going to make money hand over fist. But then you get like general surgeons, yeah, they make a great living, but their lifestyle sucks. So it's there's ebbs and flows and balances and all that, but no one's holding a gun to their head to become a doctor. You
Right.
know, so
Right.
I mean, there could be some sort of familial pressure there. Like I knew a couple of people that their parents were physicians, and they were like, "You need to go be a doctor because your dad would." Like, no, no, you don't.
Why?
So,
Yeah, my
but
dad was an engineer. I have no I my mind doesn't work that way. I never
right,
could do that. So,
what
yeah,
kind of
I would
engineer was he?
civil
So you
civil
build
engineering.
roads and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, that shit's
exactly.
intense. But just talking about that yesterday, one of my friends named Mike, when I was coming up, I was in my late teens, his dad was a civil engineer, and he was telling us how difficult it is to build a road. I'm like, yeah, no shit. That's why
Well,
I'm not
yeah,
doing it. Yeah, I mean,
and,
it's not.
speed
Yeah,
limits and signs and
mhm,
bridges. Bridges is a big thing, like,
yeah,
making sure the weight of the bridge is distributed right, and it's
mhm.
like, you better hope you're right
Yeah,
because
your math better be on point. Bro.
exactly. So, talk about having all that pressure in the world on you. And the most pressure I have is that I screw up somebody's podcast when I'm making an edit or I
Mhm.
say the wrong thing into a microphone and have to re-say it. Like I like that lifestyle better. It might not pay as good,
But yeah,
lifestyle, you mentioned lifestyle with like surgeons and just awful working hours and the
mhm,
long hours and probably working on nights and weekends and early mornings and stuff. It's like,
mhm.
is that worth it for your 200K a year? It's
Well,
I don't know.
no, yeah, but I think there's a level of where like sometimes people do it for the passion, you know,
Sure, that's
and it's
great.
like yeah, it's that starving artist scenario.
Yeah.
Like, for me personally, I did I thought about it briefly when I was finishing up surgical tech school. I was like, I'm thinking I might go be a doctor, and I'm like, "No, I don't." Because it's
Yeah.
like, but so the lifestyle thing depends on the type of doctor you are. If you're a general practitioner, you're 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, right? But if you're a general surgeon and you're, obviously most of the time it's a 9 to 5, 8 to 5 kinda thing, but when you're on call, it's hard, you never know. Like the one of the docs I worked with this past weekend, he was like, "Yeah, I got called at 1 a.m. for an emergency, and he had to be up all night, and then he was on call at 3 different hospitals. I don't, and I told him, I said, how is that remotely fair to you?
Yeah, and then what happens if you I have questions, but
But man, let's do it. I mean, yeah, no, it's like so, and probably the same questions I do. It's like, what if you have two emergencies at
that's
two different
exactly what I
hospitals?
was thinking. I'm like, what
Yeah,
should you prioritize? Do you like
well, I would
okay.
say that the person that has okay, we'll go into it a little bit. Person that has appendicitis depends on how long they've had it, right? The level of acuity, and then let's say you have someone who has a ruptured spleen. Okay, so the spleen, it's pretty vascular, so it's going to bleed.
Mm,
What do you need in your body? Blood,
blood.
right?
Yeah.
So the ruptured spleen is definitely going to take precedence over the appendix, right? The
Even though that
appendix,
with
yeah,
the sepsis risk, yeah.
exactly. So, and that's how they do it. I would assume. I've never asked, but now that you brought that question up, I'm going to ask it.
I
Yeah,
can't help but wonder, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
like, 'cause
And I
I
mean,
don't wanna be that person with appendicitis who's like, "Well, actually, hold on, just relax for a little bit. We got somebody with a ruptured spleen." I don't wanna be that person with
no, no
who
one
comes
does.
in second.
Yeah, no, no, and nobody does. This group has a lot of doctors in it, right? Break it up. Not one person needs to be on call for three hospitals. You can have one in each
Mm,
one.
yeah,
But
yeah.
also the hospital should say, "Hey, you know what? We need to have different people." I don't. Listen. It'd be easier to fill the Grand Canyon up with rocks than it would to be figure this out. You know what I mean?
You're
So
right.
it's just, and I'm talking about throwing them in one at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
So here's what I'm starting to do with the wrap up of the show. You're about to shuffle off the mortal coil, and you're looking at the end of it. What do you want to be remembered for?
Great question. Man, I would just say, as cliche as it sounds, integrity.
Hmm.
Like, it's super cliche, I know,
No,
but I don't wanna be known for being a dude who threw his lifestyle, his family, his everything like that away in the name of chasing something. Like, I'm not gonna be Elon Musk, and
no.
that's fine with me. I don't want to be. I don't want that kind of pressure. I don't want that kind of I mean, some people are cut out for chasing and striving and all that. That's not me. Like, I have high aspirations and high goals, but success to me isn't a dollar sign. Success to me is being able to provide for my family, but with integrity, right? And being able to sleep well at night. I couldn't sleep well at night if I had 250K in debt. I couldn't sleep well at night if I was being dishonest with somebody and making money off of them. I want to sleep well at night, man, because I've not slept well at night before and it's not fun. And so I want to live life with integrity. And at the end, it'd be nice if a few people showed up to the funeral and they looked at my little picture or my little ashes or what. I don't care what if they put me in a box or if they chop me up into pieces. I don't
Hmm.
but I want them to just be like, "Okay, that guy, he lived with integrity. I want my kids to look up to me and be like, I wanna live like that too." And so, as cliche of an answer as that is, that's the God honest truth.
That's not cliche. It's a lofty goal. I think that,
Yeah.
when you look at the things that are tangible in life, it's not money, it's not fame, it's not any of that stuff. I mean, money helps. I think, this
It
idea
does.
that money can't fix everything is bullshit. I think it could fix the majority of the problems we have,
Well, yeah,
you
it
know?
depends on how much we have, but
Of
it
course.
also, emotionally, like emotional problems, I feel like, relationships are important and
Mhm.
putting if we have the choice between one or the other, putting our time and effort into building our relationships to me is worth it compared to putting my effort into, making more money. If you have to choose one or the other. I
Yeah.
like both, but if you
Yeah.
have to
Of course.
choose.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you?
Storytrust.media is my website. That's where I do the voiceover and podcast production work, and LinkedIn is where I hang out professionally. I got sick of trying to keep up with Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and
Mhm.
then just all the political discussions and stuff. And here we are adding to it, having more, but they were sane political discussions, right? So LinkedIn is really the place that I find is the best place to hang out. You can email me too, John@jonathangoehring.com.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I wanna say thanks for coming on the show. It was a great conversation. Had a lot of fun.
I had a blast, Phil. That went all over the place, but I loved it.
It did, yeah. I like that. I like the chaos. So, bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.